Welcome to Talking in Stations for November 13th, 2020. I am Matterall. I'm here with Sully. How's it going, Sully?
Very good. Glad to be on. Have a good laugh and learn about the news today.
Yeah, good to have you on. Last time we talked to you, you were doing live footage from 49 Tech U. So maybe we can revisit that a little bit, but we have a host of stories to go into. Also want to introduce Gregorian. He's a little bit off screen.
Hi.
Make sure I'm not too loud for you guys. Hey, Gregorian. Thanks for coming. Okay, let's take a look at the news. Let's turn on our little news feed here. There it is. We'll hide ourselves here a little bit. The top story for today is the Requiem Eternal Alliance is no more. It was done under by a rogue director. He closed the alliance. He had some disagreements with them. He sold a Fortizar to Goonswarm. I think he probably intends to defect there and made off with about, well, somewhere in the range of 300 to 400 billion in mostly resources and equipment. I think there were 8 dreads in there. And there was more than one Fortizar, but there was one Moreau faction Fortizar that was in place, so it still had its original rigs. That is a pretty pricey win, and that was turned over to the Imperium. I believe that was in impasse. All in all, 50 systems were dropped as far as sovereignty, and what looked like what could have been a huge problem for Legacy, because remember, Legacy is fighting in Delve. This happened in their space since Requiem was one of their alliances. But Legacy recovered very quickly, and within 4 hours, those iHubs that were lost were pretty much replaced, which is astounding. What do you guys know about this?
With the turnover that Happy Forces did was impressive, because for those that don't know, an iHub, once you have deployed it, you then have to toast it yourself. So each iHub would need its, I think it's 5 to 10 minutes before it can even be online and anchored for Happy Forces. So for them to scramble and retake all of the lost systems within 4 hours is a huge feat. So well done to all the pilots that were involved in ensuring those systems stayed secure, because it's not an easy task.
Yeah, I was surprised that they managed to mobilize so much so quickly.
I mean, this could have been really bad for the for Legacy, right? Like, what were we looking at here? Losing all that space, giving up a Fortizar. How did Goonswarm or the Imperium react to this? How much of it were they responsible? And did they take advantage of it? Did they throw the Pappy forces for a loop with this kind of a defection?
Well, they definitely seem to have been using it in their media narrative, which I would probably do the same if I was in their place.
Yeah, as well as so not only there was their systems in impasse, there was also some systems in Tenerife next to Catch that were also lost due to this.
Relative to the size of the alliance, Requiem Eternal had a disproportionately large portion of Legacy's jump bridge network.
So a lot of jump bridges went down when these iHubs were.
So that part of the jump bridge network is out of commission for at least 5 weeks now.
Yeah, so impasse, there are still some jump bridges in impasse due to, obviously, they didn't own the entire region. However, it has made some routes less secure, and with it, getting from one side to the other is slightly harder, especially for things like defenses and moves. Same with Tenerife. They didn't own a lot of SOV there, but the one SOV they did own was in one specific side, similar to impasse. So it has caused a bit of a divide there.
Yeah. I heard one of the things that might have hurt the most, funny enough, because they did recover the iHubs relatively quickly. We're looking at Tenerifis here on screen. But if we also look at MPAS, you can see that these are all recovered. In other words, they belong to other legacy alliances now, except this one here. Wait, did that change? iHub owner. Oh, okay. So it's not complete, but there's still 1, 2, 3, 3 in Impasse. But everything else is taken up by Brave, Test, or Ranger. Who is R-R?
Resdata Regnum.
Okay, thanks. I almost said Ranger Regiment. Yeah, and Test over here. That's a pretty quick recovery for those iHubs. I think there was 37 in all. They got replaced really quickly. Let's look at Tenerifis real quick and see if there's more Requiem in there. They're really down to 3 systems. But I think what really hurt, if anything, was something about one of the iHubs was along the Keepstar chain from Legacy Space all the way over to Quirius. Do you know anything about that?
I'm not really sure where the Keepstar chain is for Legacy. I'm not in Legacy, and I don't really know much about their structure networks.
Let me have a look and see if I can
Yeah.
identify it.
Well, anyway, that would hurt a bit more if you needed to get reinforcements. But I think a lot of since the war has progressed now for months, there really aren't, unless I'm mistaken here, many move fleets from Legacy Space into Quirius and ultimately into Delve. Does that sound right to you?
I'm pretty sure that all of the really big moves are done, unless there's a huge fight coming up that will take heavy casualties. I don't think there will be many big move ops.
All right. So we'll see. This has to have been annoying, though, and it is a pretty ugly drop. I think the motivation for the rogue director, do you know what his motivations were?
All I heard was that I saw a leaked screenshot of someone saying that the Alliance treated him badly.
Yeah,
I don't know what that means, though.
Yeah, a few people that I've spoke to, both in my alliance and people I just know in Eve, have stated that Requiem there's a lot of issues with the alliance as a whole. So I think over time, one of these directors just had these issues bubbling up, or he wasn't happy about something and felt like he wasn't able to do a change. So rather than continue to work at it or do anything that could change it, kind of just took the easy way out.
Yeah. I was going to make a very unfavorable comparison to real life, but thought the better of it. It's but there's 2 sides to this coin. One is treat your people well. If you disappoint them, you create more spies and traitors than if you if you treat them well, you won't have as many of them. And those are the guys that really damage you. And this was one of the conflicts I had at NC Dot, where we had a really vindictive and ugly spy master. I won't say his name. I don't think he plays anymore. And he was just horrible at really persecuting people that clearly hadn't shown that they were spies at all or whatever. And in the process, he created more dissatisfaction with NC than he solved. So it is a weird dynamic that if you are mistreating your players, you are actually creating more problems than some of your security tries to keep out. So on the other hand, if your feelings get hurt, then you got to be made of better stuff than just to betray everybody, because you're mad at 1 or 2 people in charge. I have never thought that was good gameplay at all. But other people think that's, EVE Online, sure, whatever. But it just seems to me like it's embarrassing for you to be such a baby that you screw everybody else over because you're not having fun. That's other people's game too. You're supposed to play cooperatively. And if you're going to go traitor, you just have low character and you should never be trusted again. There's nothing, if you do a smash and grab, there's just nothing glamorous about it. If you do a heist that you plan and it articulates into months of planning and sacrifice, that's a different story. But if you're going to smash and grab, you're really just a runt of the litter.
Yeah. And the big thing as well is, although doing the Traitors Act is one key point, he has now instilled a rage in a large amount of players who want revenge for this, because it's now kind of Pappy have got more reason to want to fight now. They've got it was kind of like being just shot in the back by your friend and then he runs over to someone else. It's you're gonna get mad, you're gonna want to get revenge for this act. So there's gonna be a lot of Requiem Eternal, rather now Eternal Requiem players who really want to get their vengeance.
Yeah, they've already set up a new alliance, like you said, Eternal Requiem, and they're bringing the corporations that were in Requiem Eternal back into it, which shows that they're definitely showing more resilience than the last alliance to suffer this sort of attack on it, which was Care Factor.
Right.
Which it's from the story that I got sounded like it had a similar issue of a person with director roles had felt that the alliance had betrayed him. But in that case, they weren't nearly as able to effectively recover from it.
Right. Well, it looks like they recovered from this one. So, okay, let's move on to the next story. This is a Snuffed Out versus Ushra'Khan in the Wrecking Crew. This looks like there's a bit of a battle there. Wrecking Crew kind of helped out Ushra'Khan, which is kind of interesting because they took over Providence and Ushra'Khan were the enemies of Providence. So maybe they do have common ground.
Yeah, there was a lot that's going on there. Snuffed Out and Wrecking Crew don't get along, and Snuffed Out doesn't get along with most people in Lowsec, and that includes Ushra'Khan. But Snuffed Out did frequently work with more frequently work with CVA, Ushra'Khan's longtime enemy, than anyone else besides Legacy work with CVA. So there's a lot of a complicated web of connections there. So Snuffed Out has recently been deployed to Lantorn, which is where they like to stage out of when they deploy to the Minmatar low-sec area.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they frequently, when they're deployed out there, they frequently end up fighting Ushra'Khan. And since Ushra'Khan is the largest Minmatar faction warfare alliance, and often they end up working with Wrecking Crew to fight against Snuffed Out because RC is pretty much one of the only low-sec groups that is really able to deal with the kind of firepower that Snuffed Out brings.
Right. Well, Snuffed Out, you might remember from yesterday's report, also said they were taking ownership of the Basgaran Freeport, which, to our best knowledge, turns out to be false. I don't know what they're up to, but it looks like they're doing something.
Yeah, so being where I am on the EVE map, we've been able to see a lot of fraternity movement, as well as a kind of Black Ops associated group, which is Akina Mountain. Akina Mountain is a very good Black Ops pilot and very good siege of a system, or moreover, a region. He has a large amount of Cynobolts, I believe in the realm of 50 to 75, and has been currently causing some havoc with Army of Mangos, with dropping supercarriers and dreadnoughts and stuff on them. It seems like they've got a new target up in Venal, which I believe to be trigger happy. Not sure the reason for this, but we have seen their capitals have been moving, as well as the Kingdom Mountain family has been transitioning up that part, heading up that way. So it'll be interesting to see if there's any development up there.
Yeah, Trigger Happy has lately been, a lot of their content has been going into drone regions and fighting the various groups that are still living there and not really deployed heavily for the war. Like No Value in particular lives right at the other side. No Value is a Russian alliance which lives right at the other side of the regional gate to Venal, so they fight Trigger Happy a lot. And there are a couple of solo super carriers owned by Trigger Happy members which hunt ratting capitals and stuff in drone regions. So it seems like this is apparently a retaliation for what Trigger Happy has been doing in Fraternity and their allies' space.
Okay. Yeah, there's these long jumps over to Venal here. Let's see if I can zoom out.
Yeah, it's a very long Stargate, considering the 49 TAC to 4 TAC 0 Stargate was a smuggler route, I believe they're called. This one is almost 3 times as long, and there is no way around it because there is the Polaris regions in between. So
yeah, look at those long routes. Okay, that's coming out of MTO there.
Yeah, that's a big choke point for every capital move up I've seen out of drone regions.
Yeah, this is what links the east with the north. It's controlled by Horde. All right. So we're going to look for more action there out of Fraternity, see what they end up doing up there. It's going to be interesting to see. At the same time, they are still committed to the fighting in the war, or have they left the theater?
Yeah, they said in this that the war is going to be their main priority still. They're just going to retaliate against Trigger Happy for this other stuff as well and divert some of their stuff over to that.
Okay. Yeah, lots of big news items. We'll get more information on that and update you tomorrow. So some of the stuff that's going on right now for EVE Online is a new EVE Pulse came out, and we might be able to have a look at that. Let's take a look.
Welcome to a new episode of The Pulse, your regular newsbeat from the heart of EVE Online. The new trading spaces and VAT Out of Hell updates have both gone live in EVE this week. To mark the occasion, an exhibition unveiling the newly updated supercarriers took place outside the freshly renovated Jita 44 station on CCP TV this week, and you can check out all the incredible new visuals in the stream linked below for all the action. The Dynamic Frontiers update is also now live in EVE Online, introducing the Encounter Surveillance system and also the Dynamic Bounty system to nullsec space. The DBS will ensure that income generation in New Eden is more evenly and fairly spread across the universe, and the ESS will help create more exciting gameplay opportunities in nullsec. Be sure to check out the dev blogs on both for more details. This year has been Plex for Good's most successful yet, so thanks and congratulations to all contributing capsuleers. Plex for Good has raised $135,000 in the fight against COVID-19 since the 3rd of April, and the collected funds will now be presented to the World Health Organization's COVID-19 Solidarity Response Fund and the Johns Hopkins Center for Health Security. To complement the VAT Out of Hell update, the popular Headhunter skin has returned to EVE Online's new Eden store. You can get the Headhunter skin for the Eon, Hell, Nyx, and Wyvern with a 20% discount until downtime on the 17th of November. The in-game Jump Clone panel has just received a quality of life update. The panel now explains the purpose of jump clones more clearly, as well as providing information on required skills, maximum clones, and now displays any implants present at a glance, among other improvements to installation, renaming, and filtering. That's all for another episode of The Pulse. Thank you for joining us. Remember to check the description or the comments on Facebook for more information on the stories we've covered. Hit subscribe to stay notified of any videos that we post. And now, word from our sponsors.
Okay, got to get used to these mute buttons. There. Now everybody's unmuted. Yep.
Yeah. So
Okay.
just quickly before we move on to the next section, Villy has put in something in the chat which is very interesting. The Imperium had an FC swap sides earlier in the week.
Yeah, Joey Zahm.
Joey Zahm, yeah. It seems that he has just bagged a lovely Wyvern super capital kill.
Yeah,
one DQ.
His one of his characters was flying a heavy interdictor on this kill mail, which occurred while this show was running, and a bunch of NC dreads jumped in onto it.
Yeah, have a kill mail?
I checked the podcast channel.
Okay.
I'll just post it in the chat channel as well for those
post
that
it
are
in
interested to
chat
see
so I
it.
can get it in front of me. Okay, thanks.
Yeah, so a Wyvern in 1DQ was killed by NC after.
Mm-hmm. Go ahead, I can hear you. Did you stop talking or?
And that was in 1DQ, the main staging system of Goonswarm.
Yes.
And one of the people on this kill mail was a Goonswarm FC who moved over to NC a few days ago, and since then has been dropping a lot of big toys around. Like, he had previously dropped his super in 1DQ to kill a carrier and then moonwalked out.
What was his name?
Joey Zahm.
So there is Rob Zahm in the Onyx.
And his previous corp had actually left Goonswarm earlier today after losing around half of their they've lost half of their members over the past week and left Goonswarm today. So I wonder what that's about.
The big thing I think here for the news is it's the Imperium's main staging, and even though it appears that this Wyvern was fleet walked off of the Keepstar, it's still a beacon that got lit in the heart of Imperium with hostile dreadnoughts, the NC dreadnoughts jumping into their heartland, destroying a Wyvern and being able to leave. And for those that are unfamiliar with dreadnoughts, is when they siege, they can't move for 5 minutes. So there's a 5-minute timer on them being in that position.
So this guy was legit war target, but he was decked out for what? Was he moving? No.
It's a bit of a weird one. It's kind of, it looks a bit like a ratting fit. However, not entirely.
You don't usually see ratting Wyverns. You usually see Nyx or Hell as the ratting super.
It's kind of, it's not full ratting, but it's not is just pretty much looks to be a standard comped wyvern, although there are some irregularities that might be from where he was moving or just not realized at the time. Like, for example, the one fighter support unit, Tech 1, when he has 2 Tech 2s on the ship.
Yeah, so Billy says that's a fit for Skynet. Yeah, I think that's what he's saying. There in the audience. Well, okay. So the major takeaway that you're trying to get to is that this is a bad sign for the Imperium, considering that one of their wyverns can get taken out right there in their home or their former home system now, capital system. And they can do it. Pappy can do this kind of thing with impunity, it seems. So it seems like Fountain Frank is becoming a very good parallel, real life parallel to someone coming out and saying like everything's all right, when in fact the people who are invading you can drive around your city streets with impunity. I can see how that's working out.
Yeah, this wouldn't have been possible 3, 4, 5 weeks ago. It just wouldn't have happened. It would have likely been a wyvern kill, but the dreadnoughts would have all been destroyed as well.
Yeah. Right. So, I mean, the umbrella is totally dismantled if you can sign O into 1DQ. But again, this is an interesting war because you have some traitor stuff happening on the legacy side, but in Delve itself, you see that there's an exchanging of fights back and forth to try to control these iHubs. Let's take a look at Delve right now and see what the iHub situation looks like, because a lot of them were coming up in the next 2 days. We're in the middle of that time. As we can see, a lot of them are on fire here from both Condi and Test.
I do believe the Imperium managed to successfully retake or defend an entire constellation as well in the last week.
2 constellations they took back, but they also look like they're slipping again because Test took 2 of those constellations, 2 of those iHubs in the constellation. It looks like it's a real back and forth. But yeah, you can see that. I think they defended TAC W, didn't they, today?
Yeah, last night the DTAC W and T5Z iHubs had timers, and they successfully the Imperium successfully defended those. Actually, I ended up I was flying. One of the ships I was flying with was an Intosis ship, and because they formed up enough firepower to drive off the main fleets. I ended up leaving my Intosis ship cloaked until I brought it back to YZ9 this morning, because last night they drove us off. So they're still not completely beaten, even though they're definitely not doing as well.
Yeah,
they're still.
And that's the point of what we're saying. They're definitely fighting back, taking territory back, which is interesting. Or not territory, but they're taking back iHubs, which are important. They're not as important as letting them die in the first place, because the iHubs that exist now are aged. They have capability of putting infrastructure down. Once those are destroyed, it doesn't matter if you win it back and put up another one, because now that one is much less effective than the one that was there before. It's going to need to age 30 days before it gets a lot of its power back. So as these iHubs actually drop, so do bridges, so does travel. What we call the constriction process of this region continues and makes it really unplayable for the most part. If you like war, you're going to get plenty of that. But if you like doing other things as well, there's just not much room for that sort of thing now, as the enemy is in Delve and has breached it and is flooding into it, as you can see all through this area here. Okay, so that's interesting, though. You said, and this is where we started off, an Imperium FC. What was his name?
Joey Zahm from the Corp Chemicals.
Zahm, and he defected to NC Dot.
Yeah, Original Sinners, which is a corp that a lot of FCs have joined. The most famous one was Pittsburgh, who had left Goonswarm about a year ago.
Those are the U.S. In NC Dot. That's the U.S. That's the corporation where the fleet commanders are that are U.S. based, and so you'll have a lot of FCs in there, like a Pittsburgh, like Bunny, I forgot his name, and
Brother Bob.
And Brother Bob doesn't play anymore, I don't think. But yeah, so those are what the FCs are heavy there. In the European time zone, it's a whole different group from Europe, and most of those guys run the fleets. It's from a different corp. But that's the situation with Original Sinner. So I can see why people would be attracted to them. It would be considered like AMOC for NC Dot.
Yeah, as well as what Villiers has put in chat as well, that the Chemicals Corporation has left the Imperium as well.
Yeah, and that, I think that might be a big deal, he was saying, but I don't know, so we'll have to see.
Yeah, that's they're definitely a corporation which is pretty good at PvP. So I've started to hear some things over just the past few minutes actually, but I'm not sure what's up yet. So I hope I'll find more information later.
Okay, well, we'll have another show tomorrow. All right, carrying on, going back to CCP news, dev blog for memory improvements. This talks about large battles, as you can see, and how they're talking about improving the performance in these large fights. So read that dev blog. It's really just an announcement of intention more than anything else. And finally, we didn't get to this yesterday, so we'll get to it today. This is important. The Alliance tournament is here, but this time it is being put on by EVE NT. So as you can see, 32 EVE alliances are going to do battle with one another for the title. This is a time-honored tradition. There are at least 14 or 15 alliance tournaments. And you can see here, these are the qualifying groups. I've heard there may be a fight between Test Alliance and Goonswarm early on, a bit of a grudge match. But there you go. EVE NT is putting on the Alliance tournament. So make sure you check that out.
It's going to be some good brawls, as there are some well-known groups there, some well-known tournament FCs as well. So it's going to be a very good watch. So I highly encourage everyone to go and check it out, because it is very good normally. This happens it will run over 2 weekends, November 14th and 15th. That's this weekend, actually, starting tomorrow. And then again next weekend on 21st and 22nd. All these matches start at 1500 UTC and complete by 2100 UTC. So that is it. The Alliance tournament this weekend and next weekend. Check it out. Getting some late word here that we'll bring you that news tomorrow as we check it out. But that's all we have today. You have anything else, Sully? No, I think that's a pretty good wrap-up point. Like I say, we've seen a lot of changes on the war front, both in fairness, both on the war front and behind Pappy lines. But yeah, it's been a very interesting today and the last couple of days, obviously, with all the changes. So
yeah. All right. Well, thanks everyone for joining us today. We will be back Monday, or actually you'll see us Sunday as we do the weekend report with the whole crew. We get a panel of specialists. We talk about everything that happened during the week. I do want to make a couple announcements here. This is pretty cool, and it's just an experiment. So don't hold us to this, but a couple things. One is we're going to take these daily shows and we're going to bring them to you inside the game through a mail list called TIS News. That's TIS space news. So look up that mailing list and also go to TIS public, TIS space public channel. That's where we'll be chatting in the game, so we can get Talking in Stations news and news gathering and community into the game a little bit better. So we're going to try to publish news every day, which is not easy because you have to write it all up. There you go. Thanks. And we'll send that out so you can kind of get your morning newspaper in the game. That's the idea that we'll bring. It'll be a truncated version, but it also gets referenced. And also our new website, again, has a new look. You should check out talkinginstations.com. The newsletter will be printed there as well. And the third thing is, if you don't want to get it in the game because you don't always log in, you can have it mailed to you. So we're going to start up our email list again. So there's lots of different ways to get EVE Online news from Talking in Stations. You can get it in the game. You can get an email to your actual real email. And podcasts, we're gonna start broadcasting the audio part of this, setting that out as a podcast, but we have to figure out if we want to do this bulk stuff that we're doing, or if we want to actually start editing some stuff and putting some music to it and actually presenting it. So I think that does better over a long period of time, but we'll see. But anyway, some new stuff coming at you, more Daily Show stuff, written and audio and video. All from all the guys here like Gurgorin and Sully and the rest of us at Talking in Stations. Okay, thanks for watching. We will see you. Oh, and if you want to support the effort for other people, right? Because we're not asking you to pay for anything. Everything's free. But if you want to support Talking in Stations for other people, I'm sure they would appreciate that. We would certainly appreciate that. It keeps us motivated and helps us get equipment and take down barriers that might stand in our way. And there are barriers to this whole mess. A lot of them are technological, as you can see, the mute button, that sort of thing. You can help us out at talkinginstations.com. You can support us through Patreon/Matterall, or always here on Discord. Not Discord, but Twitch. Okay, guys, thanks. We will see you next week.